What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk. We have some late night breaking news for you. Just literally sat there watching YouTube, kicking back, slightly tired, falling back a little bit, and then bang, a little Twitter notification pops off. I see a vortex of journalists and just accounts on Twitter in general going back and forth. And we've also had some conflicting reports, right? So I will stress that. Before we get into the breaking news, there are conflicting reports, and I'm sure we'll get further updates on this as we kind of navigate through the show. But we had news probably about an hour ago now, maybe just under an hour ago, that PSG sporting director Luis Campos is in advanced talks to join Manchester United, and that was coming from a Belgium journalist, I think. Did you say Belgiumese? I don't know. From a journalist who is very 50-50. We've also had Ben Jacobs come out and go against that, saying no, he's actually doing a new contract with PSG. So one can only speculate and one can only dive into it. So what I want to do today is not say, oh, he is definitely joining Manchester United and he's definitely going to be a sporting director there, and oh my God, how crazy is this? That's not my focus. On tonight's show. My focus is going to be who he is, his work, what he's done, how he would fit into United's thing, even if it isn't true. We've done news stories on this channel before where we've been linked with strikers and it just seems a mile off and it ends up the story being rubbish, right? But it's still okay to discuss it. It's still okay to speculate. So before you get any of the negative naysayers in the comments who are going like, actually, this is what's going down. I think it's just fun to conversate anyway. So for anyone who doesn't know who Luis Campos is, he is for sure widely regarded as one of the best sporting directors in Europe currently. He's got a strong track record of talent identification, smart recruitment, builds competitive squads on relatively modest budgets. And that is exactly what Manchester United need at the moment. If you go back and look at his previous work at Monaco, at Lille, what he's doing at PSG at the minute, although it's thought that he's more of sort of an advisor than like a concrete role. So that's kind of flexible. I need to do a bit more digging into that and go into a bit more depth. But at Monaco, back in the day, you're talking 2013, 2016, and everyone remembers that Monaco team. He was the spearhead of that. He was the key architect behind everything that they was doing, the rebuild, when they got promoted back up to League One. He helped the club shift from relying on kind of big money signings, like Falcao, for example, who Manchester United fans know all about, to a smarter, youth-focused recruitment system. That's the blueprint that he's put in there, and has his fingerprints all over it. He helped sign players like Bernardo Silva, who was bought for 15 million quid, sold for 50 million pounds to Man City. Fabinho, initial loan, which then later permanent, and then he sold to Liverpool for 45 million pound. Thomas Lemar was bought for 4 million and sold for 70 million to Atletico Madrid. Bakayoko, 8 million pounds, sold for 40. Martial, again, another player we're very familiar with, 5 million pound, sold for 60 million euros to Manchester United. Obviously, it was a little bit less than that. We had the whole Ballon d'Or contract thing and all that kind of squad. And that specific squad, before kind of ultimately being broken up and sold, won League One in 2016 and 17 and reached the semi-finals as well. So the job that he did there straight off the bat was super impressive, which was what kind of got him his next move. He then went into Lille from 2017 2020, and then repeated the magic all over again. Turned them from kind of relegation strugglers to champions. Amazing, incredible work. Nicolas Pepe signed for 10 million euros. How much did Arsenal buy him for? I don't know why I'm doing that, because we've bought Anthony and Maguire, who, by the way, Anthony tonight doing bits, by the way, just throwing that out there. But Nicolas Pepe signed for 10 million euros, sold for 80 million. Victor Osimhen, 12 million, sold for 75. Gabriel, who went to Arsenal, of course, 3 million euros, sold for 27. Sven Botman, Renato Sanchez, again, won the league ahead of PSG. Broke that mould of PSG, which ironically ended up moving to next. But just his work, he's got concrete work throughout the system that he's been doing. Really, really smart, diligent recruitment. And I think we always talk about the signings we should make in the summer and the big names, your Gyökeres and Victor Osimhen and all these players, right? But no one speaks about the whole recruitment system and how fine-laid it needs to be, and how there has to be a cohesion there between each member of the board, which I will get into a little bit later on in regards to Christopher Vavell and how that whole scenario works. But just to continue with his work, obviously, At PSG, there's been mixed challenges there. It's not the same club as Monaco or Lille. There's more pressure, higher demand. So there's been certain, superstar egos, political environment, all these things kind of intertwine, which make it much more difficult. But he has brought smart signings in, who again play for us as well. Manuel Ugarte, Lucas Hernandez, Bradley Barcola, Kolo Muane, Gonçalo Ramos. There's been smart recruitment there, and if you look at PSG, again, I don't know the finer specific details of how their whole board and structure work, which obviously would take me hours to look into, which I definitely will. He is spearheading some of that as well, and he's it's like a side advisor, but he does still have a concrete influence in that, from what I understand. So again, work there is nailed on. It seems, I think it was Arsenal who was getting linked with him as well as their new sporting director. They obviously went for the one from Atletico Madrid. I can't remember his name at the moment, but there is a lot of clubs who would be happy to bring him on board because he has a proven track record, like I speak. I'll get into how it's going to work potentially, in my opinion, kind of speculating, of course, how it would work with Christopher Vell and Ineos if it is true. But again, there is a load of conflicting reports, so I stress that. Vegard says, I hate Ineos so much. James McGregor saying, hypothetically, if he was to come to Manchester, Nick, would this not be another immediate strain on PSR due to compensation or whatever? Well, I think he's in contract talks with PSG, so I don't think the compensation would be huge, because if he is in contract talks with PSG, that's surely saying it's going to he might be signing a new one, right, for another 5 years or whatever it is. I don't know if it's similar to player contracts, but if it is, that would indicate to me it's at least in the last 2 years. Maybe let's just have a look to see what he's saying to find out if what the contract situation is, if it's out there, that kind of information. So this was initially reported by Sasha Tavolieri that the in advanced talks with Manchester United, but again, there's so much like blurred lines ongoing. I'm not sure what's actually true and what's not for a live show. So yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to get actual concrete information on his contract. But again, you can speculate if it's the last 2 years or whatever, then it's not going to be that much compensation. But I take your point about PSR and stuff and how that would all work. Again, there'll be developments on that. There'll be more shows which we'll certainly discuss. But yeah, let me just get into the finer details with how it might work with Vevell and Ineos. So, as I touched on before with Luis Campos, he's obviously this is a guy who excels, right? When he's allowed to rebuild squads and implement a clear recruitment strategy and focus on undervalued talent rather than just this kind of galactical stars, this is where he thrives. And obviously under Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, with more control over these kind of decisions, the overhaul is going to be huge, right? However, we have someone already in Christopher Vevell who is head. I don't know. I think his specific role is he works with the scouting department, head of global development, and there's a few other bits in there as well. But he is doing a really good job, I would say. He was filling in part-time, and then he signed a permanent contract, I believe. So it's weird how that would kind of work. But in regards to Vevell, I'd speculate Campos would probably end up being his boss or technically sit above him in the hierarchy. Whether that would be, again, concrete role, advisory role. I'm going off a report here, right? What someone's put out from Belgium, a journalist. So it's speculation. But his job as a sporting director. So Vevell, sorry, not his thing. Vevell's known for building data-driven scouting systems and the cat's distracting me because it's scratching at the door. Stop it. Stop, please. All I can hear is where was he at? Sorry, Vevell's known for building data-driven scouting systems and uncovering young talents early, while obviously Campos is known for balancing talent, spotting with squad building, financial discipline, and knowing when to sell. If they work well together, it could create a really effective recruitment structure for the future, but the key will be whether that vision aligns. Again, I spoke about it before with Dan Ashworth, how that didn't work out. There was a load of noise around him saying, oh my God, look at all the work that he's done with England, even when he was in the Championship, to what he's done with Newcastle and Brighton. This is an incredible guy. And then ultimately, he came in, didn't fit, didn't work, certain decisions went against each other, so Jim Ratcliffe wasn't happy, they got rid of him. There is then a void, right? And I think in his absence, and his departure, should I say, Wilcox and Vivell kind of stepped up, right? They took on more ownership of what they was doing, which is fine. So how it all fits together and blends together, it's hard to say. It's really, really hard to say. I would see, to be honest with you, lot, I would see Luis Campos as this kind of overarching sporting director, okay? The godfather, if you will. Vivell, head of scouting, foreign recruitment, and then Wilcox, technical director, and then tasked with kind of academy recruitment as well, and there'll be conversations in between there. That is how I would see it. But for me personally, you look at someone of his ilk, someone of what he has done in European football, there isn't many better, I'm telling you. He is right up there with some of the best sporting directors possible. And there's a reason. All of his work, or the majority of his work, has been, incredible. The budgets he's worked with, the championships have been won underneath him. He is the guy. He's a very, very competent sporting director. And heading into the summer now, this is arguably the most important summer of United's history. All depends quite a lot of it, of course, on if we win the Europa League or not, which will be huge for us financially, getting back into the Champions League, and maybe that will give us a big push in general. But we're ending this season mathematically at the bottom of the table, bottom half of the table, should I say. We're going to finish around 15th or 16th. This is Manchester United, who's got from winning a Premier League, multiple Premier League titles with Sir Alex Ferguson, to becoming a cup team, a couple of second place finishes, and then kind of a flurry of trophies in the past couple of years with an FA Cup and a Carabao Cup. But there's been no sustainability there for 15 years almost, you want to say. Nothing. It's been bit part here and there, different managers, different players. It's been such a mixed system. And that's one of the reasons why we've ended up with this team that we've currently got now, which is a bit of a mixed bag. Yeah, we've had one window under Ineos, and I think the recruitment's been pretty good. Ugarte looked at pretty good today, 23 years old, a player who Luis Campos brought into PSG, by the way, or had a say in it at least. Lenny Yoro looks great. Xerxes is adapting. So the window, Majraoui and De Ligt look like great signings. So I would stress that maybe you need more windows like that. And I think bringing in figures like Luis Campos is only going to help that vision, because I think we have some really good footballing brains at which we've been neglected for. So Ed Woodward was a banker, Richard Arnold was a banker, John Murta didn't know his arsehole from his ear roll. And I know there are journalists around there who claim they were, the great people and fantastic, and that's, whatever that is, that may be true, right? But in terms of doing their job properly at Man United, crap, absolutely crap. So getting footballing brains at this club, it just seems like such a simple thing, doesn't it? Seems like such a simple thing, like just bring people who are competent at the job. That's a start. Do you know what I mean? And Campos is up there with the very best. Charlie's saying, I'm surprised to hear about this sporting director. We're also signing Chelsea's top youth level finding person. He's coming to the club. Once the gardening leave is over. This is kind of big. Yeah, so this is the thing, like, people focus so much on players and just buying players, and if you get this player in, it'll be, incredible. Sign this guy. If you don't have a brain or a blueprint behind that, you're shitting money up the wall. This is what United have done for the past 13, 15 years, like I touched on. We've been buying players who just, 80 million Antony, fuck it. 80 million Maguire, go on. Bring Pogba back, and then let him go on a free. Yeah, no problem. Di Maria, sign him. Fuck, absolute collapse of a signing. Get rid of him. Rinse and repeat. Alexis Sanchez. The list is fucking endless at this point, isn't it? So I just think it's just common sense to go into this club, look at the history of the club, meaning United, of course, and just go get as many top level people in Europe as you can in different areas. So whether it's a technical director, whether it's a sporting director, whether it's scouting, whatever it is, it just makes logical sense to get the very best in every position. And I'm sure there are other clubs who are thinking the same thing, and it's not as easy as just a click of the fingers, right? For example. But, we're United, so one of the biggest clubs in the world should have one of the best recruitment systems in the world. And that's my vision of it. That's how it should work. Thought my cat was going to break in then. It's banging against the door. He's obviously got an opinion on Luis Campos. Nape saying, I'm liking this move. I think Ravel and Wilcox have done well so far, so adding this guy only makes us better. I can see Campos wanting to bring in the likes of Cherky in. Cherky would be a phenomenal signing, wouldn't it, for 25 mil as well. Think about Cherky, Cunha, Ahmad, Bruno, you know, and hopefully a decent striker. PSG went from signing Mavericks to signing some of the best young talent on the planet. Just look at him, how much they're thriving now. A lot of the players they've got in a minute, I would die to have. I mean, me and Shreyas spoke, Shreyas more so on this channel, and you guys would have heard him speak about him as well. Kvaratskhelia was pushing. I know he's quite an expensive signing, but look at him. Dembele was completely written off after the shock move to Barca. The whole 130 million quid is a flop, and now he's had the best season of his life. He's killing it for PSG. They've got a decent chance of reaching the final. And they just won the league as well, which I know they win the league every year. But Barcola as well as another one. Talent identification involved in that was incredible. João Neves is a player I've adored for a long, long time. I wanted him at United so bad. And over the summer where he's been linked with him, I was like, I did a video on him and everything. I would be a perfect fit. And just watch him play now with the likes of Vitinho and is it Paco? I don't know how to pronounce his name, the centre-back. Exciting. Nuno Mendes, one of the best left backs in the world. Hakim is equally as exciting. Donnarumma is a young, really good goalkeeper. So they've got an exciting young, fresh squad for years, and there's length in that, and they're only going to keep adding to that as well. So I agree. I think their whole process, they've just flipped on its head completely, haven't they? For having Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi. It'd be funny when it kind of speak volumes if they went on and won the Champions League now. It's like, it just goes to show the difference of just throwing money at big players and big wages, expecting something to happen, to actual doing your due diligence. What fits this mould? What style of play are we going to really push and align to? And then what young players can we balance with experienced players as well in that system? And do it for the long run. Do you know what I mean? Have some consistency in there, rather than chopping and changing all the time. Because when you're buying players who are 29, 30 years old, buying players like Messi, for example, who obviously Messi is one of the, if not the greatest player ever. So I get it, but it didn't work out. There was times where they had Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi up top where they were just, you had Poch who was trying to get him to press, and it's just like, and he was playing through the team. And you have such big egos to manage as well at the same time. It just doesn't work. I mean, it happened loads. I mean, how many times it happened at United? We've spoken about it. So I think this would be an incredible move. I think it would have a huge impact. But at the moment, like I said, it's all speculation. You've got Ben Jacobs coming out speaking about Campos, saying they're not in talks. He is in advanced talks. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Ben Jacobs, I would probably lean more towards, because when it comes to ties with PSG, is quite good. And I think he's got quite good links to Qatar. And obviously Nasser Al Khalifa is I don't know if he's like the boss of PSG or the owner or one of the owners under that kind of umbrella. Yeah, but there is a quote actually from Luis Campos in 2019 which says, "Of course, I believe I could help Manchester United. I want to work with a big club one day." So I'm not saying he wouldn't be open to it, but maybe this journalist has jumped a little bit earlier, and if that is the case, then it is what it is. But as a football channel who delivers news and discusses it, then, you have to deliver the news. Right or wrong, it might come out tomorrow morning that it's absolute nonsense and it's crap and it was a paper bag in the wind, and that's okay. That's all right. But you know what? What's wrong with discussing it, right? Having a conversation about it. Binyam Giram, Ben Jacobs isn't even reliable. I agree on, I'd probably say on 80% of things. But when it comes to PSG and things in Saudi and Qatar, he does have a bit of knowledge and information and links with that. From the stories that I've seen him report and they've actually come to fruition is what I'm saying, not just based on, kind of random knowledge. James McGregor saying, egos win you nothing. PSG are about to prove it. Yeah, they may well just do that. They may well just do that. Listen, regardless of whatever the situation, if he is going to leave PSG, there will be a lot of clubs in Europe who want to bring him in. And it goes back to the reasons I said before. I don't want to repeat myself. The work he did at Monaco, Lille, and PSG has been mega. And a lot of the times on a very low budget, bringing in these absolute gems and turning them into superstars, and then also making a giant profit on them as well. So, yes, ticks every single box for me, personally. Listen, we will wait for developments on this as we get them. I'm sure they'll be reported over on our Instagram. If not tonight, it'll be first thing in the morning, and it'll be put to bed one way or another, right? So, I like him. I like the fact that we brought in that guy from Chelsea as well, who's supposedly good at his job. He's another one who we need to do some research into. Jim Fraser, is it? At Chelsea. So, look, we'll see what happens with both of them. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on TikTok and Twitter for all these kind of news features, any kind of transfer stories. Appreciate people joining me on a late night live, and also people who've got work tomorrow and stuff, so I'm just going to leave it short and sweet. But yeah, leave a like on the video for us, subscribe to the channel, and let's see what happens in the morning and maybe an afternoon.